शेतकरी मित्रांनो, आला आहे खास द्राक्ष पिकांसाठी मार्गदर्शक असं
पहिलं लाईव्ह मोबाईल ऍप्लिकेशन
ग्रेप मास्टर.
लक्षात ठेवा, नेहमी शेतकरी हितार्थ काम करणारा आधुनिक शेतीचा मोबाईल डॉक्टर ग्रेप मास्टर
आजच डाउनलोड करा.
आदरणीय जॉब ग्रीन हे केप्सपॅन समूहाचे प्रोक्युरमेंट डायरेक्टर असून ते नुकतेच भारतामध्ये महेंद्र शुभलाभ यांनी उभारलेल्या नवीन पॅक हाऊसच्या उद्घाटन प्रसंगी ते भारतात आले होते. त्यांच्याशी बोलून आम्ही त्यांच्याशी आमच्या शेतकरी बांधवांना इंटरव्ह्यू देण्याविषयी विनंती केली होती. त्यांनी ती मान्य केली. धन्यवाद जॉब. जॉब यांची केप्सपॅन कंपनी ही भारतातून अनेक द्राक्ष निर्यातदार एक्सपोर्टरकडनं द्राक्ष घेत असतील. त्यामध्ये महिंद्रा, काल्या एक्सपोर्ट, सांगळे एक्सपोर्ट्स, MG, माणिक पाटलांची MG एक्सपोर्ट्स, PPF, अमित पडवाळांची, तसेच ब्ल्यू ओव्हरसीज आणि आमची PS ॲग्रो एक्सपोर्ट ह्या कंपन्या त्यांना सप्लाय करत असतात. याबरोबर मान्सून आणि सह्याद्री सुद्धा केप्सपॅनला सप्लाय करत असते. अतिशय चांगला एक्सपोर्टर आणि चांगल्या दर्जाचा माल बाबत केप्सपॅन अतिशय चोखंदळ आहे. केप्सपॅन ही भारतामधील निर्यातदारामध्ये अतिशय आदरानं नाव घेणारी येण्यासारख्या काही मोजक्या कंपन्यांमधील एक कंपनी आहे आणि अशा या समूहाचे डायरेक्टर जॉब ग्रीन आज आपल्यामध्ये आहेत. मी त्यांचं स्वागत करतो. संपूर्ण आमच्या द्राक्ष बागायतदारांतर्फे आणि निर्यातदारांतर्फे मी जॉब ग्रीन यांचं स्वागत करतो. नमस्कार द्राक्ष बागायतदार बंधूंनो, ग्रेप मास्टर या आमच्या यूट्यूब चॅनलमध्ये आपलं खूप खूप स्वागत. आणि खास आपल्या ग्रेप मास्टर यूट्यूब चॅनलमध्ये केप्सपॅन procurement director Mr. Job Green is here for give some message about the scenario in grapes in Europe market. Welcome, Job.
Thank you. Very nice to be here. Thank you.
Yeah. Sir, I can ask you some questions. You have to give some knowledge and information to our growers. मी त्यांना विचारतोय की युरोप मार्केटमध्ये भारताची द्राक्षाची कंडिशन कशी असणार आहे. व्हॉट इज सिनेरियो about grapes in Europe market? Can you tell brief?
Unfortunately, it's not a very promising scenario because the grape market has been oversupplied now for a number of weeks, and it's largely been caused by the North American supply of their own US fruit that has created a situation where countries like Peru, who are growing very quickly and who have got a lot of seedless grapes particularly, have been forced to divert far more than they planned to Europe. So that has been one big factor. So about 40,000 tons more grapes, seedless grapes, have come to Europe this year than 2 years ago, which was the record volume of Peruvian grapes. So there's been a lot more Peruvian fruit to absorb in Europe in that critical period between December and now. On top of that, South Africa and Namibia had a late start to their season. So that's not good for India because if Namibia and South Africa are early, that means that on white seedless they're out of the market much earlier. Being late means that they're now coming more into the Indian window.
Yeah. त्यांचं असं म्हणणं आहे की 3000 कंटेनर हे पेरू कडनं जास्त आल्यामुळं नामिबियाचे पण जास्त द्राक्ष आणि साऊथ आफ्रिकेचे पण जास्त द्राक्ष, त्यामुळे एकदम मोठा स्टॉक तिथं मेंटेन झाला आहे आणि त्यामुळे मार्केट हलत नाही असं त्यांचं म्हणणं आहे. थँक्स. माय अनदर क्वेश्चन इज, कॅन यू ब्रीफ अबाउट द अराइवल्स, कंट्री वाइज अराइवल्स ऑफ ग्रेप्स in worldwide.
Okay. South Africa is a very important origin, particularly when it comes to Europe. It's the biggest supplier to Europe of all countries that are either side of India. South Africa's got a growing crop, export crop, and particularly on red and black seedless grapes. The white seedless volumes in South Africa are much smaller than the red seedless. So you've got a country now who is expanding more and more into the Indian window with red seedless grapes. So South Africa, more grapes. Peru has been growing now for 10 years, every year, and this year they will probably export 400,000 tons or more, which would be a record. That's a huge amount more grapes. That's more than twice what India exports. So Peru have really added to the world supply of grapes in the last few years, and it's still going to continue year after year now. Chile, which is the biggest grape origin in the world for exports, it represents about 19% of world exports. They have been suffering as an industry, partly because of costs rising, but their exports are likely to go down in years to come. This year the crop is, as far as I've heard, is fairly normal, nothing major. They've had some unusual weather. But Chile is not going to be an effect on India at all in Europe, we don't think.
It is a good news for us because we also had our exporters had
They're frightened of Chile.
fearing about
Not
it.
surprised, because Chile have had some very difficult seasons recently. But I think they've given up on, certainly on the continent, they've given up exporting, and the importers on the continent have lost interest in Chile because simply they can't compete with India. I mean, Chile produces some great products, but it can't compete with India. And India's got earlier every year for the last few years. It's come, every year the curve is coming earlier.
Yeah, 15 days earlier, 15
Yeah.
days earlier.
Yeah.
And Namibia and
Namibia, there's growth in Namibia. Then coming the other side of India, then you've got Egypt. Every year Egypt is either early or late. Last year they had a very early season, which actually prevented the prices on Indian grapes, on white seeds, going up. They would have gone up more at the end of last season had Egypt had a more normal time. But Egypt had a very early season, which created an opportunity for fresh grapes to come into the market in the middle of May, which under normal circumstances wouldn't happen.
can you brief about month-wise South Africa in the month of?
South Africa is December, January, February, March, April.
February, March and April also,
Yes.
but less volume
Well, last year they exported the highest quantity in April.
in April
Yeah, the highest weekly quantity happened in April.
from South Africa. And Peru, month-wise?
Peru starts in October. The peak of the seedless coming to Europe will always happen between October and November. But this year it's carried on into December.
So there is a big problem.
Yes.
And Chile?
Well, Chile starts in not for Europe. It only really would start now with red seedless in March and end of February through until the end of April. That's when the gap for Chile red seedless would normally be. But I'm wondering now whether there will be a gap for Chile anymore with the growth that South Africa is having.
And Namibia?
Namibia comes earlier. That is mid-October, not October. Transvaal is an earlier area, and that comes in late October.
It's 1 month only.
Yes, a very short window for that.
And Egypt come after India.
Egypt starts typically Egypt would start around the 10th, 12th, 15th of May. And in a late season they might start on the 20th of May.
20th of?
20th of May, in a late season.
And how much? May, June?
May, June, that's it, a very short season.
Thank you. I can get some information to my growers about month-wise calendar of arrival. As like last year, there is any scope for Indian exporter and growers. आमच्या भारतीय एक्सपोर्टरला आणि द्राक्ष बागेदारांना ह्या वर्षी कसा स्कोप मिळेल? I want to ask you, how is the scope for this year for Indian exporters?
Scope in terms of volume. Well,
money. Money is more important. Volume and money.
Well, from what I've heard, I've been here a few days and I've been talking to people now for some time about the season ahead. I think there's a consensus at the moment, at least, despite the cold weather recently, that there's a good crop, and a crop that will last the full season.
Yeah.
That's different to last year when we had a very intensive period, but it was a relatively short, intensive period of heavy exports. This year I think we're going to see a much longer period of exports.
Yeah.
My biggest concern is that the volumes will be too high, and there is the danger, especially given the volumes coming from South Africa, that there's just too many grapes in the market, and that, from a grower's perspective, that could be dangerous because it could put tremendous pressure on the selling prices, the market prices day to day, because importers will not want to take on fruit if they're too concerned about the market situation.
You can say that what is scope for India for this year in brief?
I think the scope is, it depends on whether Egypt has an early season again, which probably is unlikely. So that might give a little bit more scope. But this current market situation is the worst it's been in Europe for some time. We've had bad seasons before in January, but this current situation, caused by oversupply of red seedlings and unplanned quantities coming in from Peru, that's definitely not going to create an environment where growers are going to get very high prices. It's going to put pressure on buying prices, I think.
सद्यस्थितीमध्ये जानेवारीमध्ये भरपूर पेरू आणि साऊथ आफ्रिकेच्या मालाचा स्टॉक झाल्यामुळे जानेवारीमध्ये तर काही स्कोप इंडियन ग्रेपला दिसत नाही, कारण तिथे 9 युरोपर्यंत मार्केट खाली आलं आहे आणि हळूहळू ती परिस्थिती सुधारेल असं त्यांचं म्हणणं आहे. बघूया आपण. वी होप इट्स विल इम्प्रूव्ह. माय नेक्स्ट क्वेश्चन इज, ड्यू टू सीइंग दिस सिनेरियो इन युरोप मार्केट, you have some cut your programs to Indian exporters?
We have cut a few back, yes, only because some of the customers really follow market prices, and where we've got customers that follow the market price, there's no point right now paying very high prices for that fruit, because those customers will not be prepared to pay that price when the fish arrives.
Yeah.
So we're cutting back on the early weeks, and we are generally cautious anyway. I've said to you before that Gatespen is a cautious company. We believe in regulating the volumes, not sending volumes that are not planned, and making sure that the customers we sell to are prepared to pay the necessary prices based on the cost of the fruit.
हां, त्यांनी काही असं प्रोग्राम खास कमी केलेला नाही, परंतु जे कस्टमर त्यांना युरोपमध्ये कमी मार्केट देतील त्यांचा प्रोग्राम त्यांनी कमी केला आहे. त्यांचं म्हणणं आहे की इथल्या शेतकऱ्यांना, एक्सपोर्टरला पण चांगले पैसे, त्यांचा खर्च तरी निघाला पाहिजे, अशा सुपर मार्केटबरोबर ते काम करणार आहे. आय एम व्हेरी थँकफुल दॅट युअर विशेष अँड युअर व्हिजन इज व्हेरी गुड, दॅट वी शुड अर्न आवर कॉस्ट. आवर इंडियन ग्रोअर्स, इंडियन एक्सपोर्टर्स हॅव get their cost, not in loss.
No, that's right. Otherwise it's very bad business for everybody.
Yeah.
The volume is actually not the answer to making more money. Volume is a very risky thing. Regulating the quantities coming will make things more profitable for growers and exporters. It's good for both. It's good for importers as well.
Yeah.
Because it's the retailers that are looking to have the low prices in the shops. They are wanting to pass the benefits of oversupply to their consumers.
Yeah.
But that's against the interests of growers and exporters.
Yeah.
So if the industry must realise what is the optimum volume for India to ship to Europe to gain the maximum volume that can be sold at profitable prices.
त्यांचं असं म्हणणं आहे की हा सगळा व्हॉल्यूम गेम होणार असं वाटतंय. ते त्यांच्या एक्सपोर्टरची काळजी घेणार आहेत, परंतु जास्त व्हॉल्यूम झाला तर ते काही करू शकत नाही असं त्यांचं म्हणणं आहे. त्यामुळे चांगला माल इंडियन एक्सपोर्टरनं पण पाठवला पाहिजे आणि चांगला माल भारतातील द्राक्ष बागायतदारांनी सुद्धा एक्सपोर्टरला दिला पाहिजे. खराब माल पाठवून तिथे कुठलाही चांगले रेट कोणालाही मिळू शकणार नाही. माय नेक्स्ट क्वेश्चन इज जॉब, विच व्हरायटी हॅव गुड स्कोप इन फ्युचर for Indian growers? What you can suggest? Which variety should we grow by seeing next 5-10 years?
I think the easiest way for me to answer that is if you can tell me which markets will be open to India in 5 to 10 years' time, then the answer to that would be easier to give.
Okay.
There are many markets out there that India doesn't have access to at the moment, which it needs to have access to. And those markets are looking for things that you can produce well. If those markets are not open to you, then that might change what you would plan. So taking things as they are at the moment, then what we need is a better eating white seedless grape, because India is good at producing white seedless over a consistently long season.
Yeah.
And from what I've seen, the elongated varieties, the new elongated varieties,
Yeah.
RK, SSN, Sudaka, Manik Chaman, I'm really excited about the potential for those varieties.
आपण उगाच बाहेरच्या व्हरायटीकडे लक्ष देत आहोत. अर्थात बाहेरच्या व्हरायटी सुद्धा तितक्याच महत्त्वाचे आहे, परंतु इंडियात तयार झालेल्या SSN, सोनाका, माणिक चमन ह्या व्हरायटीला सुद्धा मोठा स्कोप असेल असं त्यांचं म्हणणं आहे.
But I must add though, that the demand for white seedless is not growing, so that's more of a replacement thing for the Thompson, which will begin to be seen as the least favoured variety once the better varieties come in. So there's no increasing demand for white seedless. In fact, it's the opposite. The demand for red seedless and black seedless is growing in most markets now. So we just have to, what we have to do if we want to continue the demand for white seedless is produce better quality, better looking, better eating white seedless grapes.
त्यांच्या जागतिक लेवलला खूप मोठ्या प्रमाणात कलर व्हरायटी आहेत, परंतु इंडियन लेवलला व्हाईटची डिमांड खूप वाढत आहे. त्याच्यामुळे तुमच्या या सुधाकर, SSN या सुद्धा व्हरायटी चांगल्या टिकणार आहे आणि लांब व्हरायटीची गरज त्या बाकी युरोपियन मार्केटमध्ये सुद्धा वाढणार आहे. सो इट इज इंडियन ओरिजिन व्हरायटी इज गुड. वी हॅव नो पेटेंटेड व्हरायटीज.
Well, obviously it would be great if India could have patented varieties, because they are recognised with consumers, they're recognised by retailers. Of course, it's a much tougher task introducing unlicensed, unknown varieties that are only available in India. To make those successful is a lot more difficult.
Which market we should tap? Our Indian exporter should go here. मतलब आम्ही भारतातून कुठले अजून युरोप सोडून अजून कुठली मार्केट ट्रॅप करू असं मला वाटतं. Which market we should trap?
Well, what I have to say is, Europe is mature.
Yeah, Europe
UK is mature. Continent is mature. There's no growth available there.
Yeah.
If you shove more grapes into Europe, all it's doing is reducing the price.
Yeah.
So the key to success for India as an export nation on grapes is to widen the market distribution. You've got to do everything you can to try and open new markets, even if that initially might be at more attractive prices. Obviously, China's a huge market you have access to.
Yeah.
Then, ideally you'd want to be in the Korean market.
Korea.
Yes, South Korea. Because that's a big seedless market.
Yeah.
And then the US market potentially is there. I mean, Canada's already opened up.
Yeah,
Canada's a relatively small market. You're talking 20 million people on the east side of Canada.
Yeah.
Or 30 million. It's a small market. But the US market, you've got 2/3 of the population in the US, I think, live on the East Coast. You can reach North America you can reach New York in 23, 24 days. So if the US market opens, that would open tremendous a market up. Chile is historically had that market, but I think it will be a slow process, and it can only be achieved through really great varieties going there. But you can make a start.
Thank you. What should be strategy for Indian growers and exporters to get good pricing? Or what is our unique selling point of Indian grapes to European markets? What do you
I think at the moment people in Europe, unfortunately, do see India as a cheap source of grape. The volumes that India sell are sold because the retailers have, over the years, got used to selling Indian grapes very cheaply to consumers.
Yeah.
They do heavy promotions, particularly in Germany, also Scandinavia. Those markets are moving huge quantities of Indian grapes, but they rely on the price being cheap. That's never going to lead to high prices. So, regulating volume is and keeping stocks in the market under control, like we saw this past season. Low stocks, regulated supply, gives an optimum price.
त्यांचं असं म्हणणं आहे की भारताचे द्राक्षे जगभरात अतिशय स्वस्त किमतीमध्ये ग्राहकाला मिळतात, युरोपमध्ये तरी, आणि त्यासाठी आपण व्हॉल्यूम हा अतिशय जास्त ओव्हर व्हॉल्यूम जर केला तर सगळे मरतील, आणि रेग्युलर व्हॉल्यूम केला, कमीत कमी स्टॉक तिथं मेंटेन झाला तर सगळ्यांना प्राईज मिळतील, इंडियन ग्रेप्स एक्सपोर्टरला मिळतील आणि ग्रोअरला पण मिळतील. पण एकदम बंपर साठा तिथं जर गेला तर मार्केट अजून कोलॅप्स होणार. आणि इंडियाची द्राक्षे जगभरात स्वस्त द्राक्षे म्हणून ओळखले जातात, म्हणून आपल्याला तिथं स्कोप आहे, परंतु खूपच बेभाव आपले द्राक्ष जायला नको असं मला वाटतं. ओके, अँड वन लास्ट क्वेश्चन्स दॅट अबाउट युअर कंपनी. Cape Span brand is a very trusted brand among Indian exporters. Cape Span is a growers association in South Africa. They have built very good market in Europe and UK and all China also and Canada and all overall worldwide. So can please give some more information about Cape Span Group.
Cape Span is as you say, came originally was formed as a representative body for the South African industry, and the brands Cape particularly were the South African industry, and it's extremely well known over more than 50-60 years. 60 years, yeah. Probably 70 years actually.
70 years history.
Yeah.
Very old company.
Yeah. So we started off because we were responsible back in the 1980s and 90s. We were responsible for the global expansion of South African fruit. We were trading in every market that was available. So as a company, we've got a global knowledge of almost every market that exists.
Yeah.
That gives us an advantage. So we know we need to be in the North American market, and we've got a company, Cape Span North America, based in Montreal and in Philadelphia. We have a small company in Chile, which exports Chilean fruit and is developing the Latin American market.
Yeah.
Our big base is in South Africa, where we own a lot of farms, and we export more than 25 million boxes of fruit. Cape Span currently exports.
How much hectares your own farm in South
We
Africa?
have around 3,000 hectares of our own production.
3,000 hectares.
Approximately, yeah. And we have various offices within Europe, and we own some joint ventures. We've got a joint venture in India, Fresh, which is an importing company, and then we have joint ventures in Asia with JWM. JWM Asia. It's part of it. Yes, JWM Asia. They distribute in Hong Kong, in all the Asian markets. And we have Cape Span Egypt, which actually is quite important for us because Egypt and India having a very similar marketing period. We sell Egyptian grapes to a lot of the customers that we sell Indian grapes to.
तर साऊथ आफ्रिका ही 70 वर्षाची जुनी कंपनी आहे. त्यांचे अमेरिकेमध्ये ऑफिसेस आहेत, मॉन्ट्रियल, फिलाडेल्फिया इथे. तसेच साऊथ आफ्रिकेला त्यांची स्वतःची फार्म्स आहे, सिट्रस ग्रेप्सचे. तसेच चायनाबरोबर त्यांचं कोलॅबरेशन आहे. इंडियामध्ये ते इम्पोर्ट करतात UPच्या मार्फत. संपूर्ण जगभरात त्यांचे ऑफिसेस आहेत. त्यांच्याकडे खूप ग्लोबल डाटा असतो, पूर्ण जगाचं त्यांच्याकडे नॉलेज असतं. त्यामुळे ते फार चांगल्या प्रकारे शेतकऱ्यांना पण प्राईस देतात आणि चांगल्या प्रकारे विक्री व्यवस्था त्यांच्याकडे आहे. थँक्यू. Thank you for giving us time and say something good, knowledgeable information to our growers. I am very thankful to you.